I just pressed the let's go live button, I'm pretty sure. So let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started. We've got some serious business to attend to. It's a full day today. And it looks like we're live. That's tremendous. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I'm a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun, deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And today we are talking about criminal charges. We've got a couple of them to get into. Of course, we've been covering the Donald Trump prosecution taking place out of Florida. We've got updates on that. We're going to take a look at the fast track trial order. Omnibus order came out. Gave us some good details on what we can expect. Now, these dates are not hard and fast, so they're telling us that this trial is going to be commencing in August of this year. Man, that's fast. So we'll go through the entire opinion from the judge. It's an order telling us when the calendar call is and other very important deadlines that we will be able to explain and unpack here. And then Trump got himself a little bit of a cross-examination last night when he was having a conversation with some news anchor on some news website, channel garbage somewhere. And some interesting clips came out because Trump is sort of in the middle of a cross-examination here. He's getting asked questions that you would expect a prosecutor to ask him. And actually, the prosecutor's questions are going to be a lot harder than the ones that came from Brett. So we'll go through those. I've got a few minutes from the interview because they talked about the classified documents that we've been covering here in detail. We are also going to talk about the big news on the day, which is that Hunter Biden is going to be taking a guilty plea. Wow, that's interesting. You're kidding me. It's going to be like a slap on the wrist, nonsense, very sweetheart deal type of an arrangement. Yeah, it is. The letter came from David Weiss. We're going to go through the whole thing. We also pulled up the information from the court, which details the charges, or lack thereof, in other words. And there's some interesting things here. People are calling out the double standard, including our friends Jenna Ellis on Twitter and Cernovich, Mike Cernovich on Twitter specifically is referencing us to some other details about sentencing and diversion offers and so on. So we'll go through all of that. Total garbage deal, garbage for America, great for the Biden family. So we'll talk about it. Now, there was this clip from Joe where he said Hunter did nothing wrong. Turns out that's not true if you're taking a guilty plea. And so we'll go through that. And we've got another clip here of Bill Barr. And the reason we're going to go back to Bill Barr, there was one commenter yesterday after the show who was irritated that we spent so much time listening to Bill Barr. So we have another clip today of Bill Barr, and it's another, sizable clip. So that should be fun. So shout out to that guy. But this is fun because now Bill Barr is having to call out the double standard. He's having to go, wait a minute. I thought I just told you that the DOJ is very fair and impartial. That's why Trump is being prosecuted again. Remember, Bill Barr is having to play this like topsy-turvy game. He's like living in two worlds. He's like, all right, 2016, okay, DOJ was corrupt, garbage, partisan political hacks. 2020, DOJ, partisan, corrupt political hacks. Donald Trump documents prosecution and January 6 prosecutions, amazing. DOJ is incredible. We love him to death. But now we go back to, I guess, because of this Biden deal, I think we're going to go back into corrupt political partisan hack DOJ. So it's like, where the hell are we here? Did it get better, or is it in between the two? Well, Bill Barr is going to explain, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Then we've got reaction. Trump is commenting on this. Ron DeSantis is commenting on this. And Vivek is also opining. We've got clip from McCarthy. Byron Donald is calling this, what I think is very astute observation here. White privilege, man. Hunter Biden is getting away with some white privilege, Democrat privilege, quite frankly, is where I would go with that. It's white Democrat Biden privilege. All these other people are in jail or have been convicted for other penalties very closely related to what Hunter was charged with. And so, the question is, why the double standard? Now, some people like Andrew Weismann say it's way too harsh And CBS is wondering if this is only the beginning. And so we'll go through all of that today as well. And then briefly, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter segment. I was hoping for a little bit more on this one, but Andrew Tate got indicted. And this is coming out of Romania. And it's always curious to look at other countries and their criminal processes. It's been fun to follow along with. We don't get into it a ton, but there's certain cases we've been following, like, well, Julian Assange is one of them, right? That's one that has been here on hiatus in the United States legal system. It's on warrant status, and it's proceeding through the UK courts. And so as soon as that handoff happens, we'll see the warrant get quashed because he'll be in United States custody. And so we're watching how these things interface. And so the same thing is very likely going to happen here. He'll be, prosecuted in Romania. He might be expecting other charges in the UK. We'll see if the US has anything. And so this could be just the first sequence in a long domino of events that brings him into United States custody. If this goes somewhere, we don't really know. But I was trying to get my hands on the indictment, the actual formal filing. I tried to even see if I could sign up for access to the Romanian court website. I don't speak Romanian, but thankfully there's all these translators now. So I tried to get access to it, couldn't find the document anywhere, but I did get the press release from Romania. So it's actually this nice press release. It's written in Romanian. We'll translate it. We'll go through it, get the details right out of their mouths. And then there was an interesting clip for all of our crypto friends out there. If you're a Bitcoiner, did you know this? Andrew Tate apparently literally has all the Bitcoin, all of them, according to whatever this person, wherever he's from. Yeah, 21 million. They seized all 21 million. Andrew Tate has them, which is amazing because I didn't even think that there were 21 million Bitcoin in existence, because there aren't. So pretty incredible reporting there. So the whole story just has a ton of messiness around it. And so we're going to see if we can go through it and piece together reality. And so, my friends, if you want to be a part of the program and a part of our amazing community and get access to even more content and join us when we have even more fun, we'd love it if you joined us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com or joined us on YouTube as a member, which would be a ton of fun, because we've been hitting the Trump docket updates. This morning we went through the docket. We're going to, we get into a little bit more detail behind the scenes. We save, the really big, big chunks of stuff here for the show, but there's going to be a lot. And this is a historic case. If you're going to be following any criminal prosecution in America, right, this is going to be one for the history book. So we're spending extra time on it as a community. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'll keep tabs on it. We'd love it if you joined us, no matter where you join. Don't forget to get the Telegram link so that you can join the chat that never ends. Member-only Telegram chat, no matter where you join. And also, my friends, as is usually the case, we have to be fortified before we exercise our mind power here. And we also have to be fortified against all the oxidation that's out there in this world. There's a lot of oxidizers out there who are stressing our bodies out. So we've got to be antioxidized. One way to do that is with our real organic superfood and our friends over at Field of Greens. Hey, Frank is here. He says, I ate my grapefruit. That's pretty close. That's kind of what we're talking about here. And we're talking about Field of Greens, which has a lot of vitamins. And we all would like to lose those leftover pandemic pounds, wouldn't we? And we're all kind of sick of those ads for weight loss pills, fad diets, but they just don't work. We've all been there. We've all done that, so on and so forth. But you know what does work? It's pretty simple. Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off. But listen, vegetables and fruit, not a fan. I mean, we got to go through that every day. Phew, what a pain. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula. Very specific fruits and vegetables. And just look at the label. You'll see what I'm saying. Very specific blend that you're not going to find in any other product, because proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so that we can burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when you walk into your doctor's office and they just say, oh my goodness, you look incredible. You've lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. go on over to fieldofgreens.com, open up a new tab in there, fieldofgreens.com, save with code Robert when you check out, 15% off when you go there and check out with Robert. And remember, the vegetables want to be eaten, my friends. And this is the green energy, the real kind, the real good kind that we like here. It's real organic superfood. Fieldofgreens.com, code Robert at checkout. All right. And now, let's talk about the news on the day. Hunter Biden and the Biden crime family eke out another one. A very, very nice sweetheart deal, some might say a corrupted deal, is apparently about to be entered between the very impartial, the very fair, the same DOJ that tells us that nobody's above the law. Well, they've worked one out with Hunter Biden. And so we've got the court docket now, and we've got the letter that came out from David Weiss and his underlings, who actually signed the letter, sent over to the court notifying them that a plea deal has been arranged. So we're going to look at the docket. It's very sparse right now. You know, there's nothing in there about a search warrant or a raid of a residence or anything like that at all. Just this nice little ironed out deal, all done behind closed doors. A very simple letter, and we can see the formalities they'll go through to execute the deal. Same deal that a lot of other people don't get. People like Jenna Ellis on Twitter have noted this. Same with Mike Cernovich. They've pointed out the following, that these terms are so outside the norm that it causes people to question even further how corrupt and partisan is the DOJ. So CNN came out with the story, and here's how they explain it. And I want to break this down just so we can understand the mechanics of how this works. But here's what they tell us. Hunter Biden about to plead guilty for very minor crimes relative to his actions. Here's CNN.
Yeah, John, this 5-year-long investigation now coming to a head.
Wow.
We have learned from new court filings at the U.S. District Court here in Wilmington, Delaware, that Hunter Biden has agreed to plead guilty to multiple criminal charges. I'm going to walk you through this. One of these charges.
Pausing there for a minute, saying that this is the culmination of a 5-year investigation. So does that mean like we're done? There's nothing else to unpack here? All the FD 1023 stuff, all the allegations about the $5 million that came from the Ukrainian executive who was on the board of Burisma or ran Burisma, paying off Hunter, $5 million to him, $5 million to Joe. None of that? Are we done? Has all of that been buttoned up here? Is that the question?
Involves, these are 2 counts of failing to file tax returns in a timely fashion. Those are misdemeanors. He's also going to plead guilty to a charge of a firearm offense. This is the possession of a firearm while you are addicted to a controlled substance. Now, the firearm offense is going to be diverted. And what that means is that if he meets certain conditions, that charge will go away. This will be over a set period of time. Otherwise, it's the tax misdemeanor charges that he has been charged with. Now,
all right, a lot there to unpack. So 2 misdemeanor charges, failure to file taxes untimely, right? It's just like, you were late on your taxes and you maybe did something bad about that. We'll go through the formal information and we'll take a look at that in more detail. But the other charge, the gun charge, which is when Hunter Biden was in possession of a gun, he made all these admissions in his book. We know he signed a form saying, no, I'm not on drugs. In his book, he's like, yeah, I'm definitely on drugs. And so they say, okay, it's a little bit of a felony, right? But did you hear what she said about diversion? It's going to be diverted. So we come out, we hear, oh, it's a felony. Wow, this Justice Department, they're really serious. When they say nobody's above the law, man, they mean it. Look, they're prosecuting the president's son with a felony. And that felony, though, is not going to stick around. That's what diversion means. The way that I would often explain this is that in order to have a criminal conviction, which is what everybody wants to avoid, that's the big no-no. We have to be very clear with our language here. In order to get a conviction, in this case, a felony conviction, typically what happens is somebody has to plead guilty. That's one component, which is what Joe Biden's son, Hunter, is willing to do here. And then they have to be sentenced. There are 2 pieces to this puzzle. 1 + 1 = 2. You have a guilty plea plus a guilty sentence equals a conviction. But something can happen here in a case of a diversion agreement. In other words, what happens is Hunter goes, actually pleads guilty. So we have part one, but there is no sentence on that charge. If Hunter agrees with all of these various terms, what the court will do is set this out, and then we'll come back and revisit it at a later date. And they'll say, well, you complied with the terms of the plea, meaning you didn't commit any other crimes. You were, off drugs and alcohol for whatever. You complied with the terms of probation. You checked in with your probation officer, blah, 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 whatever the terms of the diversion are. It might be nothing. It might literally just be remain a law-abiding citizen. Don't get in trouble with the law again. He says, okay, great. I can do that. I got Secret Service now covering for me. You kidding me? In addition to the FBI. Those were a long time ago. I didn't have as much cover back then. Daddy was only VP. Now he's the president. So then when they come back, that second half of that, the sentence is a dismissal of the case. It's an agreement to just drop the charge because they complied with the terms of the plea. And so there is no actual sentence, which means you actually have no conviction. So now it's 1 plus 0, essentially, because the sentence is a dismissal, equals no conviction. And so they're just teeing this up. So it's basically nothing, just so we're clear, right? The felony, which maybe is a felony thing, which may prohibit him from possessing a firearm again, which may prohibit him from voting again. Based on the terms of this diversion deal, Hunter's going to be voting, baby. He'll be back in the voting booth, pulling it 100 times for daddy. Here's what CNN says.
This is a plea deal that he has reached with the U.S. Attorney's Office here. That U.S. Attorney, David Weiss, was a Trump appointee and someone that Joe Biden, the president, did not replace. And one of the reasons why he didn't replace him was because of this investigation. They wanted to avoid any appearance of political interference.
Right. That's why they didn't replace him. Because he was such a good, loyal DOJ person that he was going to be fair and impartial. If they would have removed him, it would have looked bad. And it was a Trump appointee, so they left him there because they care about justice more than anything. Does that sound like a likely story to anybody? No, not to me. What I think more likely happened is Trump is in office. He is under a barrage of judicial appointments. Appoint this guy, appoint this guy. You've got Republicans coming at him. Put this person over here, this person over here. Somebody at the DOJ, maybe Bill Barr, knows that they've got to put a team player in the Delaware jurisdiction. That's got to be somebody they can control who is on board with this, because they know that this is going to be one of the most important offices and jurisdictions there. So Trump is just appointing people. Yeah, okay, whatever, David Weiss, David Weiss. And so they appoint this guy. He is exactly who they wanted there. And the whole thing is still under control of the same administrative state, the same establishment as before. That's why they didn't get rid of the guy. And he delivered, man. He came out here, and there are basically no charges here at all. And it sounds like this is the culmination of a 5-year investigation. You're kidding me. You needed 5 years to charge Hunter with he was late on his tax filings. You needed 5 years for that? Wow, incredible. Great work. And for a gun charge that he wrote about in his book, these are the DOJ prosecutors over there? It's in his book, man. What kind of investigation do you need to do? All right, so after their extensive investigation, here's what they decide is an appropriate resolution for the very innocent Hunty. Here's what they tell us. Letter comes from the U.S. Department of Justice, from the District of Delaware, which is David Weiss's office. Now, you'll notice that this letter is not actually submitted by David Weiss, who is the United States attorney assigned to this. We've got 2 other special assistant U.S. attorneys on this case. One named Leo Wise, which is very closely phonetically related to Weiss, but it's not the same. It's Wise versus Weiss. And another one, Derek Hines, special assistant U.S. attorneys, along with Benjamin Wallace. So we've got 4 different prosecutors on this case. David Weiss, who they keep referring to as the Trump-appointed attorney, who didn't even sign this letter, gives them cover of legitimacy because he's a Trump-appointed person. So they send this over now to the court. They say the following. On June 20th, the letter goes to Mr. Keith Kincaid from U.S. District Court Clerk's Office, the clerk of the court, out in Wilmington, Delaware, notifying the court, hey, we've got something to tell you about Robert Hunter Biden, saying, hey, dear clerk, enclosed, I've got some paperwork for you here. Please find 2 informations to be docketed. We're going to go through those next. In criminal matters involving the above referenced defendant, Hunter. The first information charges the defendant with tax offenses, namely 2 counts of willful failure to pay income tax in violation of the law. Out of everything, failure to pay your taxes. Defendant agreed to plead guilty to both counts of the tax information. The second charges Hunter with a firearms offense. 1 count of possession of a firearm by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. The defendant has agreed to enter pre-trial diversion agreement with respect to the firearm information, which means this could actually be even a better deal than the deal I described. So depending on the mechanics of this, diversion can work in one of really 2 ways I've seen it function. One is it's a pre-plea diversion, which means you don't even actually have to plead guilty first. So back to that equation that I was just describing, 1 + 1 = guilty, or a conviction, a guilty plea plus a guilty sentence equals a conviction. This is not either of those at all. You're not even required to plead guilty to this because it's pre-trial. You just say, well, I'll just do these things and we'll just dismiss it voluntarily without even entering in an agreement with the court. In other words, you're suspending prosecution to give the defendant time to comply with the terms. As long as they comply with the terms, in this case, we'll see if there are details about it, then you just suspend the prosecution and dismiss the case. So there is not even a guilty plea on record, and it's not the judge dismissing it as a result of a change of plea. It's a result of a pre-trial diversion. So depending on the mechanics and the specifics, it could work one of 2 ways. The result, either way, is that the charges are gone, right? They go away as long as Hunter complies with it. Now, the flip side of this, in a pre-trial diversion agreement, and just by the way, I happen to love pre-trial diversion agreements. I think they're very beneficial, especially for first-time offenders. For normal cases, right, where people screw up, there's a little bit of a problem. You say, hey, it's a pretrial diversion, make them do something. As long as they're compliant, all is well and good. This is Hunter, who is not really your average defendant here. He's kind of somebody who I would call a co-conspirator of the Biden crime family, a much bigger, broader thing. This isn't just, somebody who kind of screwed up one night and got into an altercation, and so they're going to take an anger management class and not do it again. This is a much bigger deal. But as a general rule, right, this is a very, very nice thing to have in the law. A lot of people screw up and they're able to fix it and get their lives back on track. So it's amazing that Hunter's son, or the president's son, Hunter, maybe they get it. It's a really nice deal. Now, I think it's extraordinarily lenient for the mounds of evidence that we have seen. And if this is really the end of this investigation, it is a double standard of egregious proportions. So we'll see, but let's go to the information in a minute. The defendant is represented by Christopher Clark. The parties jointly request that the court schedule a consolidated initial appearance on the firearm information and an initial appearance and a change of plea hearing on the tax charges. Original executed copies of the plea agreement and the information and the diversion agreement will be submitted in advance of the hearing. And so I really want to see the specific terms of this, because then we can really gauge what this is all about. I'm going to be not surprised if we come back and it's just remain law-abiding, like that's the only term of this diversion agreement. So he'll get the charge dismissed, he'll get his firearms back, he'll go vote for his dad. And it'll all go away. Nice deal. Man, what a great defense. Wish when I was representing clients, I could have said, We have the president is my daddy defense. Some nice defense to have. Didn't have that available for any of our clients. You know who else doesn't have that defense? Everybody in America. So this is the information that the prosecutor references. This was also filed along with the letter submitted in the district court. Criminal action detailed for us here. The case number is 274 UNA, ending in the following. United States of America versus Robert Hunter Biden. They say that the U.S. attorney in this case, again, it's not David Weiss who's signing off on this. All right, so every time they come in and tell you that it's David Weiss, Trump appointed David Weiss, Trump appointed, blah, blah, blah. Leo Wise signed off on this, along with Derek Hines. All right, just so we're clear about that. Now, it may not mean anything. They're line prosecutors, the whole thing's being investigated by so on and so forth. But just so we're clear, we've seen 2 documents now being filed by Leo Wise. Here's the information. During the calendar year 2017, the defendant, Robert Hunter Biden, 2017, that's when Trump took office, who was a resident of the District of Columbia, had and received taxable income in excess of $1.5 million. Now, this is going to be very curious because as soon as Hunter enters into this agreement, this is now a matter of public record, and these are admissions that I would argue are evidence against him, right? These are things he's acknowledging. And so the question starts to become, where'd all that money come from, and can you backtrace that to legitimate sources? And in other words, does this open up Pandora's box? Does this open up the can of worms for the Biden crime family? On which taxable income there was owing to the United States of America an income tax in excess of $100,000. So he brought in 1.5 mil, owed more than 100 grand on that. He was required by law to pay on or before April 17th. That tax, which, huge fans of the IRS here, okay? Huge fans of the IRS, but the income tax is unconstitutional and illegal. At the IRS center, he was supposed to pay it to another IRS office, and he didn't do that. Well, knowing and believing all of the foregoing, they say Robert Hunter did willfully fail to pay that income tax. We pay our taxes here, man. Count 2 says during the calendar year of 2018, Robert Hunter Biden, who was resident of D.C. at the time, following year again, also received taxable income over 1.5 million, where he owed more than 100,000. He was required by law to pay that revenue. Well knowing and believing the foregoing, he willfully failed to pay his taxes that were due in 2019. Wow. That's what they got Hunter on, huh? Amazing. What an incredible investigation. Well done, Leo. Well done, Derek Hines, these prosecutors. Man, you guys must be super proud of yourselves over there, huh? David Weiss, Leo Weiss, and Derek Hines. Incredible work, gentlemen. Outstanding job. How long did that take? 5 years? Wow, amazing. So, great. I guess they'll prosecute them on those. Wow, that's what our heroic DOJ is up to. Outstanding. Nice work, gentlemen. Job well done. So all of the other evidence of criminality is just, I guess, not really relevant. Here is what the rest of the court docket looks like. And we can see nothing else got filed to date. So we're up to speed on that. And that is the extent of Hunter's prosecution, it looks like. Now, the question is that going to be the end of it? We don't know. How far will this go? We do know that this deal is pretty incredible. Jenna Ellis on Twitter made this comment, which was a very astute observation. She said, This is literally up on the Justice Department's main page when you go and search about pretrial diversion. Here's what it says. Hunter has pretrial diversion. We just read it. It's applicable to certain offenders. It's to prevent future criminal activity and give restitution and conserve resources and all the things. Diversion's great for the right person, not co-conspirators in a family bribery scheme to defraud America. But I guess that's maybe why I'm not a prosecutor. These decisions are hard. So here's the selection criteria. Now, they tell you that if any of these criteria apply, guess what? Diversion is not available. Absent approval by the Deputy Attorney General, which means if you want to get this done, if somebody hits these criteria, they're not eligible for diversion. You got to go get approval from your boss, the Deputy Attorney General, in order to sign off on this. If you have any of these, you are excluded. Any individual who is accused of any crimes related to children, which, you know, they just, I guess, avoided all of the things on the laptop. That never even came into play. Accused of an offense resulting in serious bodily injury. Accused of an offense involving the use of a firearm. Which is exactly what we're talking about here. A firearm. A public official accused of an offense arising out of an alleged violation of public trust, terrorism charges, or when he was involved in a large-scale criminal organization like the Biden crime family. But they gave him a diversion deal because he's the president's son, which is very, very nice of them to do. Now, Mike Cernovich also made a similar comment and finding, and he said the following. He said, you know, you can always go over to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, and that tracks prison sentences for people who were convicted of certain crimes. Default on this one, 16 months. Here's what the chart looks like. Quick facts on tax fraud charges. Wow, and Hunter was making millions. We don't know how much more than 1.5 million it was. But we have some statistics here. From fiscal year 2020, which were a couple years after Hunter committed his offenses, average age 52, most U.S. citizens, 73% were tax fraud offenders, were men. Top 5 districts for tax fraud offenders. I don't see anything there from Delaware. But look at this. 68% of those who committed tax fraud offenses were sentenced to prison. And Hunter's got 2 years back to back. 2018, 2017. The average sentence for tax fraud offenders was 16 months. Wow. 16 months. But where's the category if you're the president's son, though? Is that on here somewhere? Where's the Joe Biden's son, and you have the FBI on your team and you have the media on your team? Do those justify any downward departures? Yeah, very curious. So a lot of other people get sentenced and penalized in this country. But as we talk about here all the time, there are 2 tiers of justice. There is a disfavored defendant class in this new America, where we have political prosecutions of political opponents by those in power. A disgusting situation, but Hunter Biden's corrupt deal is probably just the beginning. Now we've got the cover-up, which will follow of all the other nefariousness. And of course, we'll continue to cover. And so, my friends, we have to talk about some reaction now and what the White House has to say about this. President Joe Biden now has to eat his words. It wasn't long ago when he said that his son Hunter, smartest guy he knows, and he did nothing wrong. But now that Hunter is taking a guilty plea, agreeing that he committed 3 very minor offenses relative to all of the other criminality that exists in the Hunter Biden disgusting universe out there chronicled on the internet for everybody's horror. He apparently did do something wrong, and the media is calling him out on it. They're saying, hey, Joe, you just told us that your son was innocent. And he's been saying this for a long time. He's been selling this line for a long time. And look, I know that a father is going to protect their son, a mother is going to protect their daughter. It's a parental thing to do to defend your child. And so we can give Joe Biden a little bit of a pass on that one. But that is the same thing that co-conspirators do, is they justify their role in a conspiracy and they protect their co-conspirators, especially when it's all in the family. This is what Joe Biden said not long ago, May 5th, 2023, on with MSNBC.
First of all, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him. And it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him. First of all, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him. And it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him.
Wow. Okay. So proud of him. And it influences him, right? It contributes to his presidency, and he takes him on his Air Force with him, Air Force One, flying him all around the world. Did nothing wrong. How do I know? Well, he told me he did nothing wrong, and I trust him. But the media isn't buying it, and everybody is questioning this plea deal. People are wondering, is this really happening? I mean, it makes the double standard that we've all been screaming about that much more apparent.
He insisted. He said, as recently as last month, my son did nothing wrong. Well, now his own Justice Department has entered into a plea agreement where his son has pled guilty to 2 crimes.
Yeah.
And has been charged with a third crime, a felony. So clearly his son did something wrong. He insisted.
He did.
He said, as recently as last month, my son did nothing wrong. Well, now his own Justice Department has entered into a plea agreement where his son has pled guilty to 2 crimes, and has been charged with a third crime, a felony. So clearly his son did something wrong.
Yep, and now they've got to acknowledge it. And so what does that mean? Is this the beginning of the investigation? Is this a plea agreement that is going to be the start of something much bigger? Or is this the end of it? Is this just them wrapping the whole investigation up, putting a nice little bow on top, saying, we've done our due diligence. See, we told you, nobody's above the law. And now the FD 1023 form and all of the allegations from those conspiracy theorist Republicans are all going to have been validated, or vetted. They will have been verified to have been untrue, been conspiracy theories. They'll just point back to this investigation and say, we spent 5 years on this. It came to a conclusion. He got charged with what he should have been charged with. Stop using the law as a cudgel against your political opponents. Bill Barr, who is playing this weird game, this weird little tap dance, is trying to bounce around between one world in which the DOJ, as he readily acknowledges, was partisan and corrupt, essentially. In 2016, with the Crossfire Hurricane, with the Christopher Steele dossier and all of that. Same story in 2020. We know that there were improper pressures put upon big tech companies, and different levers were turned at the CIA to weaponize the government against Trump. So we've got bad big government again in 2020. Suddenly now, Bill Barr is going to tell us that when Trump is being prosecuted, it's all above board. Everything is great. Trump has no claim of prior impropriety here because this case is actually legitimate. So we pause there. Barr's going from bad government to good government. And now that we see this Biden plea deal, this guilty plea, where are we at? Are we still in bad government land? Are we in the government's now great again and all their criminal prosecutions are perfectly valid and vetted? Because we've got two of them going on right now. Are you going to tell us that Trump's is legitimate, but Hunter's is illegitimate? Or are you going to say that Hunter's is also legitimate? Because if it's illegitimate, don't we have an incongruity there, Bill? So he now comes out, and let's see what his take is on this. Where is he going to fall here? Is it going to be good government or bad government? Good DOJ or bad DOJ?
Today, thank you for being here. So
good to be here, Martha.
What's your reaction? What did you think when you heard this news of this plea deal this morning?
Well, I think the indictment of President Trump, which was a grave, significant act,
here we go,
really demands that the department assure everybody that the investigations into the Bidens was thorough, and that the final decisions reached were reasonable. And I agree with Jonathan Turley. It's not looking that good. The key question, as you say, is this just the end of the gun and the tax case, or is this the end of the whole shebang, all the other things that were swirling around as the press reported on, alleged bribery, alleged money laundering, and influence peddling, and even allegations of by whistleblowers of internal hanky-panky in the investigation.
What?
This demands a thorough accounting. And so I don't think the department can do what its normal act would be here, or normal posture would be, which is to say nothing.
Okay, so I think we're back into the government is bad again. This DOJ is bad again. 2020, they were corrupt. 2016, they were corrupt. Mar-a-Lago investigation's incredible, amazing, everything's perfect. But now we're back into, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right again. And it feels like they might be covering something up in favor of the Bidens. I'm confused. Obviously, Bill Barr is a smart man, so he must be able to reconcile this. How can one DOJ, FBI, CIA, gigantic bureaucratic state be bad 3 out of the 4 times and still be a legitimate institution?
I think the public interest demands that they assure people of the integrity of this investigation and the fairness of the final decision. And they have a good opportunity to do that with Chairman Comer's committee. If everything is hunky-dory, then I think they have to lean forward and look at that as an opportunity to clear the air and show that this was a thorough and fair investigation. And, and remember,
go ahead.
The House Republicans in 2017 and 18 did an excellent job of getting to the bottom of Russiagate. They were right about it before everybody else. They were right about it, and Mueller wasn't. So they conduct good investigations, and as I say, I think it should be looked at as an opportunity to clear the air.
Well, on that note, Jackie Heinrich reports that Representative Comer told her today at 4 p.m. that he and Representative Raskin will view 2 additional FBI documents stemming from bribery allegations against the Biden family.
Wow.
No further information on what they entail, but they're referenced in the 1023 form. So what's going on here with this drip? So why today suddenly, oh, we have 2 more things that you can look at if you come into the SCIF?
Yeah.
Because they are corrupt.
I can't explain it. As I say, the department is typically reluctant to provide access to materials provided by confidential sources, raw material, and so forth. And there's good reason for that, as a general rule. But there are also cases where the public interest demands being more forward-leaning. Half the country believes there's a double standard of justice, or more than half of the country.
More than half.
I believe there's a double standard, and I've been an insider.
Wait. What? Bill Barr just said he agrees there's a double standard here? Hang on a minute. Whoa.
Financial sources, raw material, and so forth. And there's good reason for that, as a general rule. But there are also cases where the public interest demands being more forward-leaning. Half the country believes there's a double standard of justice, or more than half of the country. I believe there's a double standard, and I've been an insider. And I said even before these pleas were announced, it was critical that the department provide assurance to the American people that these cases are going to be fairly and thoroughly followed through on, and now that burden is especially heavy. These charges, frankly, could have been brought within the first few months after I became Attorney General. I don't see why we've waited 5 years if this is all there is to it.
If this is all they've got. So I mean, David Weiss is the prosecutor on this case in Delaware. The Department of Justice oversees it. What are you asking them to provide in terms of additional information? For starters, the Hunter Biden attorney says, oh, we're all done. We're done with the 5-year investigation.
Of course.
And Weiss says it's ongoing. Given what's going on in the country right now with all of this, as you point out, the Trump indictment, what more information? Tell them right now what you believe they need to disclose.
Well, I think they should cooperate with Chairman Comer's investigation into, all the business dealings. And part of that investigation, I think, will be to look at the thoroughness of the department's investigation. I'd be interested to know, Dave Weiss, his office initiated this. It's not like they were pushed into doing it. They initiated the investigation. It looked to me like they had things well in hand. Now, more and more information about money laundering came in. That makes things more complicated. But, was he provided the support that was needed? What were his views on this? There were reports of some disagreement as to whether there should be a felony or misdemeanor on the tax. Was he rolled on that? I mean, these are some of the things that have to be looked into. He requires the cooperation of other components in the department to get bank records and other things like that.
Yeah.
And it's a cumbersome thing to
Merrick
conduct
Garland.
an investigation like this. I want to, I'd be interested in whether he was provided sufficient wherewithal to do it. But other than that, I think there's some questions that have to be answered about the whistleblowing, about whether efforts to undermine the investigation and shunt aside important information.
Amazing.
I've already talked about how the Pittsburgh office did develop important information and provided it to Delaware.
We're living in a bizarro world.
And
Something's going on in Delaware. I mean, it seems like that's where things just go to die. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Bill Barr is now back. We're back definitely in government, DOJ, FBI investigation bad category again. I mean, we went from government bad, government amazing, incredible for Trump prosecution to government bad again. It's the strangest thing. It's very confusing to me. I mean, those games you used to play when you were a kid, like which one of these things just doesn't belong here? Which one of these things is not like the others? One of those things. It's just confusing to me. I don't know how the DOJ, which has shown institutional rot for over a decade, is now suddenly incredible when it comes to one single prosecution. Amazing.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. There might be a good explanation for it. But that's why I think people should welcome the opportunity to allow Chairman Comer's committee to look into things.
They're not going to be able to
Attorney
do
General
it.
Barr, thank you very much. Good to have you here. It just
Bill, I don't know what is going on with him. Very, very confusing fella. Hopefully he figures it out. A lot of incongruence. We can help him along here. Also, the Trump prosecution is also corrupt, Bill. That makes consistency. It would make it all the same. You wouldn't have to do topsy-turvy pretzel twisty donuts every time now to explain it. They're the same agency. It's the same people who are in charge. It's Merrick Garland. All right. So that's Bill Barr. Now, people are reacting to this, and I think they're just as confused as we are because what the heck is going on here? Donald Trump said a couple things about this on True Social. He said, the Hunter-Joe Biden settlement is a massive cover-up and full-scale election interference scam, the likes of which has never been seen in our country before. A traffic ticket, and Joe is all cleaned up and ready to go into the 2024 presidential election. And this comes as the crooked DOJ, state and city prosecutors, Marxists and communists all hit me from all sides and angles with bull. ... Make America great again. Trump also said, wow, the corrupt Biden DOJ just cleared up hundreds of years of criminal liability by giving Hunter Biden a mere, quote, traffic ticket. Our system is broken. And he's right. I do believe that this is going to be the end of it for them. They're going to say, we're done, no further investigation. Any inquiries that are being provided by the Oversight Committee are now irrelevant because a guilty plea is done, it's finalized. And the media will provide cover on this thing. And they timed it very, very nicely right in the middle of what I expect to be Trump indictments 2 and 3. Indictment 2 comes out. They slop in the Hunter stuff. They sandwich it on top with Trump indictment number 3. Nice little play. Ron DeSantis also commented on this. Says, you know, it looks like Hunter received a sweetheart deal and is not facing any charges on the massive corruption allegations. If Hunter was not connected to the elite DC class, he would have been put in jail a long time ago. Here's Ron.
2 different sets of rules depending on whether you're a member in good standing of elite society or not. If Hunter were a Republican, he would have been in jail years ago.
A long time ago.
2 different...
Yeah, and I mean, if he was the right kind of Republican, he probably would have been okay. Like if he was, I don't know, like Romney's kid, or you know, who's the other kid? Kerry's kid, although he's maybe like a McConnell's kid, something like that. You know, probably would be okay. So that's Ron DeSantis, and then we have another one from another presidential primary candidate. This one is Vivek, and here's what he had to say.
Vivek, to your point, if these guys no longer are with those shows after you go on, I have a few places I'd like to send you. But putting that aside, you know, Joe Biden, one of the things he's doing is staying out of the headlines. If you win the nomination, there is a good chance he hides in the Oval. How are you going to smoke him out of the Oval?
So, look, I want to see him on that debate stage and have him meet the same fate that Don Lemon did, put him out of a job. But the real issue here, Kayleigh, let's get to the bottom of what's going on. Biden's cognitive deficits are not a bug. They are a feature because he's really just a puppet for the managerial class and the administrative state as it exists today. And I actually have somewhat of a contrarian prediction, Kayleigh. If there's a scenario where President Trump's out of the race, Biden is actually the puppet they want to put up against him. But the reason they have the document investigation going against Biden is they're going to pull that card on him whenever he stops being a convenient puppet for them. Ooh. So we have to see through that farce. This is not Biden just being an unintelligent rambler. He is a puppet for the administrative state. That's the truth.
He's an empty vessel. They just pick him up and move him from room to room. You go here, you mumble through that. Everybody gives you excuses for mumbling it. They just, oh, it's just Joe Biden and a speech impediment, you know, and who cares anyways? And they just keep motoring along, room to room to room, country to country to country. But Joe Biden is not much more than that. He's a nice vessel. He is something that I think they can make into whatever they want and exploit him to their ends. And it's really quite disgusting what they're doing. But think about the fact that the FBI and these different intelligence agencies might have literal leverage over the president. They know what is behind those redactions in the FD 1023. They presumably have the recordings. I'm sure the NSA's got those on record. So if they have all of that and Joe Biden does not want to be exposed, who has more power and who's in charge here? Doesn't the American public have a right to know about that? I think so. So does Vivek. Now, the Speaker of the House got asked about this, Kevin McCarthy. Very brief comment from him, and he's walking out. CNN picked this one.
The Hunter Biden plea deal and your reaction?
My first reaction is it continues to show the two-tier system in America. If you are the president's leading political opponent, the DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you prison time. If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal. Now, this does nothing to our investigation. It actually should enhance our investigations because the DOJ should not be able to withhold any information now, saying that because of pending investigation, they should be able to provide Chairman Comer with any information that he requires.
we'll see if they comply anything to anybody ever. I think they're going to just say the investigation's over. There is nothing. And they'll just keep defaulting to sources and methods, and they'll bury this even harder than before. They'll point to finality. They'll say, well, we're done now. Now, Congressman Byron Donalds had a very interesting take on this one. We'll see if the Washington Post picks this up. Says the party that preaches about white privilege, the Democrats, they do a great job of practicing it. Don't believe me? Look no further than the slap on the wrist of Hunter Biden compared to minority Americans that did equal or lesser tax offenses. Where's the outrage from minority activists? Yeah, where are all these white privilege hysterics from California out there screaming at everybody about this? And where are all the minority activists screaming about this? Hunter Biden has gotten away with so much here. That it's pretty shocking. In fact, this is a point that we've made many times before. We've asked ourselves, why Hunter Biden, who's got actual images of him with mounds of crack on scales, not in prison, when we know that Joe Biden was the godfather of our modern 3 strikes rule. And we know that at one point in time in American history, we had basically a no strikes rule for crack in America, crack cocaine in America. And Joe Biden wanted even first-time offenders to get mandatory minimums every time they went to jail, every time they got convicted. But that penalty did not apply to Hunter. So Byron Donalds is calling out actively this massive double standard. Where is the outrage over this? Thousands of African Americans who were caught up in the crack cocaine epidemic were thrown in prisons because of Joe Biden's laws that he spearheaded. And then for some reason, the Democratic Party somehow took the mantle of criminal justice reform in 2020 after George Floyd. It was the most baffling thing I've ever seen. Are you kidding me? Joe Biden, I think, is more responsible for more African Americans in prison. I think this is probably true, than any other person alive in America. Joe Biden, the result of his rules, his 1980s crime bill, the 1994 crime bill that he takes ownership of. I can't think of anybody else who might be more responsible for that. But then the Democrats take over this mantle, and for some reason there seems to be alignment on that topic, and it's just an amazing thing. Although we're seeing more numbers that the polls might be falling for the Democrats, especially in certain demographics. But a fun clip from Byron Donalds. Now, some people on the Democratic side say this is actually too harsh, that Hunter Biden is being overly punished. You know this guy, Adrew Weismann, major, I would, I'm not a doctor. It's hard. I'm not a doctor or a biologist. It's hard to diagnose a lot of things here. But one phrase we often say is Trump derangement syndrome. This fella, I say, has probably a little hint of it. It says, breaking Hunter Biden, context, he says. First-time tax offenders like this rarely get prosecuted, and even rarer to get jail time. And false gun applications sadly almost never get prosecuted or any jail time. So if anything, this is harsh, not lenient. From Adrew Weismann. All right, just so we're clear. This is a nice deal, man. This is way too harsh for poor Hunter. I can't believe he's even being prosecuted. It's probably those MAGA Republicans who are behind the whole thing again. Now the question is this the beginning or is this the end? We know that Republicans are going to be very upset about this as the story continues to unfold. Somebody who has been at the forefront of Hunter Biden investigations for years now is Catherine Herridge over at CBS. And here is what she had to say about the news as it broke.
I can tell you, having covered this for several years now, that this is likely to be a very controversial plea agreement, especially with Republicans on Capitol Hill. Over the last few years, not only in the House but in the Senate, their investigators have raised very serious questions about these business deals with Chinese nationals, as well as this Ukraine energy firm, Burisma. And then more recently, we've had whistleblowers come forward. An IRS whistleblower spoke on the record with CBS News, as well as whistleblowers from the Justice Department have gone to Capitol Hill complaining that this investigation has been slow-walked and that standard investigative procedures have not been followed. So this may just be the beginning of the story in many respects.
Just the beginning, and there are questions about that. Does this open up Pandora's box for them? Do Republicans start trying to trace those funds and really do some forensic accounting on 2017, 2016, 18 tax returns and try to unpack all of this? We know that there's a lot of evidence that the financial records were highly problematic and that, according to House Republicans, that there were millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars transacted. Joe Biden promised that his son did nothing wrong. Turns out that's not accurate. So let's turn our attention, now that Hunter Biden's prosecution is probably coming to a close, and he'll probably get an apology from the DOJ. Sorry for the difficult process this has been. Here's a basket of chocolates, cookies, and crack. Please enjoy. Let's talk about another prosecution the DOJ is actually interested in, Donald Trump's. The Trump trial has been scheduled. This one coming out of Florida. It has been fast-tracked. It's going to be scheduled for August 2023, which is very, very soon. Some might say right in the middle of an election season. And we're going to go through the order which came out from the judge. It's an omnibus order, gives us a lot of details, and I don't think these dates are going to stick. I think that there's a lot more to unpack in this case, and that discovery alone is going to take months, and that trial is not happening in August, but we don't know. We'll see. We'll go through the order and see what the judge has to say. We've also got a little interesting preview of what a trial might look like, because Donald Trump appeared on some news channel somewhere and sat down with some anchor on some news channel somewhere and talked about these cases, specifically what happened in Mar-a-Lago and why the boxes were retained. He got asked about his conversation where he allegedly flashed a classified document, and Trump explains what his boxes were doing and how they compare to Joe Biden's boxes. And so it's almost like a little cross-examination preview that was brought forward by that news anchor. And so we'll go through all of it. But let's start here with the brief trial order that got filed out of the court. Here is what it looks like for us. Filed out of West Palm Beach Division, Southern District of Florida. The case is the United States of America versus Donald Trump as the defendant. This order came out from the judge in this case. Let's see who signed off on it. Eileen Cannon. She is back in the house. Remember, the original judge who issued the search warrant was Judge Bruce Reinhart, and Eileen Cannon is the presiding judge, the judge who this case is assigned to, but she did not do the arraignment, and she also did not issue the protective order. The arraignment was done by another arraignment judge. Then the protective order was granted by Reinhart again. Now this is back over to Judge Eileen Cannon, who was a very favorable judge at the prior settings. When we were debating about the special master, we know that she was actually favorable. She was not buying the government's default good faith request to trust them when they were in possession of Trump's documents. So here is what the judge orders. She writes, "This case is hereby set for a criminal jury trial during the 2-week period commencing on August 14th. 2-week trial. We've got 38 counts, 37 counts. Pretty short trial for a lot of counts. 31 of those counts are documents. But I would imagine that you're going to have a serious set of examination for every single document. You're not just going to admit all 31 documents. And, it's going to be a long trial. So I don't think 2 weeks is enough. A calendar call, which means we're just going to finalize things, will be done about 1 week before on August 8th. All hearings will take place at one location. Parties are directed to bring any equipment that they need. So if you need an Elmo for overhead exhibits, or you need a projector, you got to bring your own stuff. All pretrial motions and motions in limine must be filed by July 24th. This is just crazy. Absent leave of the court, each party is limited to filing one motion in limine. If there is more than one defendant, which there are, defendants shall file combined motions unless a clear conflict exists. If it does, explain those conflicts. So this is now, we've got two defendants in this case. Walt Nauda, which was Trump's valet and sort of bag person, his personal assistant. Motions in limine may not, without leave of the court, exceed the page limits. It is further ordered as follows. All requests for writs ad testificandum must be filed no later than 14 days. In accordance with speedy trial reports with Local Rule 88.5, the parties shall file speedy trial reports every 21 days. All responses to discovery orders shall be provided timely in a fashion in accordance with dates. Notices must be filed according to the rules. All right, here we go. Here's some good stuff. Counsel shall be prepared to conduct limited voir dire following the court's questioning of the panel, right? So they're already giving us some limited jury instructions. Each party may file no more than 10 proposed voir dire questions, which is jury selection. So now we're talking about jury selection here. The court will not permit backstriking of jurors. So the judge will allow everybody to prepare 10 questions. The judge will ask all of the questions to the panel for jury selection. Then counsel may be able to ask limited questions of each juror. So we'll do 10 questions from each side by the judge, and then very limited questions depending on what the judge allows after those questions are provided. Jury instructions must be delivered soon. This all looks like, very form stuff. Prior to the calendar call, I want to know about your exhibits. Relabel them accordingly, GX1, GX2, DX1, DX2. Says no later than the first day of trial, the government shall provide the court with a tabbed binder containing copies of your exhibits. Any change of plea must be taken prior to 5 p.m. before trial begins. Trump's not taking a plea, so. Any motion for continuance, which I expect a lot of, shall set forth in detail why. Why do you need a continuance? Why do you need a postponement? Why do you need more time? And here's where we get into the complexities, right? This is where we're going to start to see some speed bumps in this trial road. What constitutes grounds for a continuance, including the complexity of the case? Yeah, 31 classified documents is going to be a lot. Also, the security clearance process. Yesterday on the program, we read through the notice of compliance from Trump's team. They've already said that they've started this process, but they've got to, I'm sure that's going to take some time. And also, any anticipated Classified Information Procedures Act rules. You've got to follow all those. And 2, indicate the reasons whether the reasons served by granting the continuance outweigh the defendant's constitutional and statutory rights to a speedy trial. Okay. So this would be a situation, let's say, when we talk about time is very important in criminal law because the defense has a right to a speedy trial. Let's say you're charged with a DUI. And in fact, this is where this comes up a lot, actually, is DUI law. And they draw your blood. Well, you might say, hey, I have a right to a speedy trial. I want my trial in like 2 months, like right away. I want my trial next month. I plead not guilty, schedule the trial right now. And some defense attorneys will do that. Why? Well, because the government might not be able to get all of the evidence back in time. If you have a complex DUI case that involves blood, and your crime lab is backed up 18 months for, or maybe it's very bad like that. There was a situation where in Arizona we had a real bad backlog long time ago, and it was being delayed, right? So we would get blood results in some courts at the very last minute before the statute of limitations expired, and it would turn into this thing. But the point is, if the defense demands a speedy trial and they don't have the evidence, the blood results back by the time the trial is supposed to start, they don't have the evidence. And so you can demand a speedy trial and push the government to provide it. And if they can't, then they have to dismiss the case, is the theory. So the argument here is that Trump has the right to exercise that. He can say, I want a speedy trial. But on the other end of that, he also has the right to due process. He has the right to confront his accusers. He's got the right to prepare his evidence and do his interviews so that he can properly present his case in a court of law. It's a due process argument. So Trump, can't be forced to also go quickly. If Trump says, I need more time, Trump can waive the time. All right, defense waives that time. So if Trump says, hey, I need 60 days to go vet an expert and to get security clearance and to do all these things, the clock stops ticking for that amount of time because the defense waives it. So what I expect to see is Trump waiving a ton of time, motion for continuance, and making justifications under this exact framework, what the judge is basically giving them, color by numbers here. Talk about your security clearance processes taking a long time, and explain why Trump is waiving this, why he doesn't want a speedy trial. The filing by counsel of a notice of unavailability, follow the local rules. If you want transcripts, exchange those prior to the calendar call. All JANKSAC material shall be turned over to defense counsel no later than the morning of the first day of trial. And that was material that they were intending to use during their direct exam. This came up, what trial was that? We just had a Jenks issue. The material shall include a face sheet so the defense can acknowledge receipt. Upon receipt of this order, defense counsel shall certify with the courtroom clerk whether we need an interpreter, probably won't be relevant. Any proposed filings sent to the court clerk. If this matter proceeds to sentencing, the parties are advised to adhere to these procedures. If it goes to sentencing, that would be after a trial, or if they take a plea deal. I don't think that is happening. And so that is it. A lot of technical stuff here. Now, this is just a rough outline. I really don't think that these dates are going to hold. They're going to be flying around all over the place. And the likelihood that a trial takes place in August, I think, is very, very low. I do not expect that to happen. But the order came out, and so we do have an anchor, and we will continue to monitor that as that trial date moves around. We'll follow it and, of course, continue to cover the case. But Donald Trump sat down with a news anchor from a news website and got into a conversation about his candidacy. And as part of this conversation, we got to preview a little bit of what felt like a cross-examination. Remember, if this Trump case goes to trial, Trump might very well be a witness. And even if he's not a witness, these excerpts may be introduced as evidence against him, which is why defense attorneys get a little bit nervous, or very nervous, when defendants start talking about their cases, because anything that they say can and will be used against them. Now, in the court of law, that also applies to Trump. So these standards are good practices for everybody, including Trump. And remember, the DOJ is going to treat him like just a common petty thief. They don't think about the consequences of what they're doing here. That being said, Trump is getting a lot of criticism for this conversation and for this speech. But as we've talked about, I'm of the mindset that he has basically abandoned in his mind, a defense in the court of law. I think he is putting all of his efforts into the court of public opinion. His end game here is not to win 4 different indictments. It's not to lose the presidency and win in New York and win in Florida and win in DC and then win in Georgia. That's probably not going to be a winning strategy. Something's probably going to stick on one of those 4. This is their shotgun approach. And no matter what you think about the federal entities and how corrupted they are, take a look at New York, for example, and what we already saw with the E. Jean Carroll trial. That was a civil trial, not even a criminal trial. So Trump's better strategy is to win in the court of public opinion. Literally, it's to win the presidency. His best defense is winning the presidency. And the people have the ultimate veto. They can just say, all right, we think these are all partisan hack prosecutions, and Trump, if he is elected, will be empowered once again to pardon himself of these federal crimes and correct many of these wrongs. So we're watching this from both of those lenses. Yes, I think this will be likely introduced as evidence against him if this case goes to trial. And it's a preview of what the prosecutors are going to be asking if he were to take the stand. Here's what it sounds like.
Please, could we have it back?
And they
please,
asked for that.
Because they have no,
They
were
did
talking.
ask for it.
No, and
they said,
I gave
can you
them
give the
some,
documents back?
And we were talking.
And then they said they went to DOJ to subpoena you to get them
Which
back.
they've never done before.
Right. And
in
but
all
why not
fairness,
just hand them over then?
Because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't want to hand that over to Nara yet. And I was very busy, as you've sort of seen.
Yeah, but
I've been
according to
very,
the
very
indictment,
busy.
you then tell this aide to move to other locations after telling your lawyers to say you'd fully complied with the subpoena when you hadn't.
But before I send boxes over, I have to take all of my things out. These boxes were interspersed with all sorts of things, golf shirts, clothing, pants, shoes. There were many things. I would say much more, not that I know of, but everything was declassified. And Biden didn't have the right to do that because he wasn't president. Nor did Mike Pence, by the way, have the right to do that because he wasn't president.
Right, I'm not going to.
Right, and that's the bigger. We zoom in and out on these things all the time. They ask about the specific allegations and whether those look good or not, and you can have an opinion about those. And then you zoom back out and you ask yourself, does Trump have this overarching capability to just declassify the documents? As we argued yesterday, he is the root power of the executive branch. And all of the other Presidential Records Acts and all of these other congressional frameworks are intending to limit the executive branch, right? This boils down into a separation of powers argument, one that, to my knowledge, has not been litigated before because Donald Trump is the first president ever to be prosecuted for a crime about documents that emanates, I would argue, from his root power as the chief executive of the country. So think of it this way. Congress created a Presidential Record Act by statute. It's not a constitutional amendment. So the Constitution, which gives Trump the actual final power over the executive branch, and he creates documents in his administration that are his. Congress, without an amendment to the Constitution, says we can handcuff you a little bit through this statute that we pass. What if the opposite were true? What if the executive branch just said this to Congress? They said, you know what? We think what you guys do with your SCIFs is a little bit problematic. And so what we're going to require is the Congressional Records Act. And I'm going to do this by executive order. I'm going to pass executive order called Congressional Records Act. And it says that Congress can do this, that, and the other thing with your records. Congress would say, get the heck out of here. And don't let the door hit you on the way out, brother, because that is not how this works. You don't get to tell us what to do with our documents and our records. But they can just pass a presidential record statute suddenly and they can control the executive branch? Why? Because they said so? No. So could Trump do it back their way? Could the executive branch go back to them? No, of course not. So this needs to be litigated, and it's going to be litigated. And everybody who says that this is a definite outcome and conclusion, I think, is a little bit off the mark because it's never happened before. Everybody has the same level of experience on this issue. Zero, because it's without precedent. Here's another clip.
I don't want to dwell on it, but according to the indictment, you were here at Bedminster on July 21st, 2021, after you're no longer president, and you were recorded saying that you had a document detailing a plan of attack on another country that was prepared by the U.S. military for you when you were president, the Iran attack plan. You remember that?
Ready?
You were recorded.
It wasn't a document.
Okay.
I had lots of paper. I had copies of newspaper articles. I had copies of magazines.
I know. This is specifically a quote. You're quoted on the recording saying the document was secret, adding that you could have declassified it while you were president, but, quote, now I can't. You know this is still secret, highly confidential. And the indictment cites the recording and the testimony from people in the room saying you showed it to people there that day. So you say on this, on tape,
it says just the opposite.
That you can't declassify it, so why have it?
When I said that I couldn't declassify it now, that's because I wasn't president. I never made any bones about that. When I'm not president, I can't declassify.
And that's what you said. You didn't declassify it.
I said no. I said I couldn't.
Could have
but that wasn't a document, Brett. There was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things. And it may have been held up or may not, but that was not a document. I didn't have a document per se. There was nothing to declassify. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories, and articles.
I'm just saying what the indictment says.
Well,
the recording and the people in the room who testified.
These people are very dishonest people. They're thugs. They're thugs. If you look at what they've done to other people, what they've done to, and overturned in the U.S. Supreme Court, these are thugs.
The suggestion was that you wanted this as evidence that the military, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Milley, had preemptively sent you plans for a possible attack on Iran, and that you didn't order that to happen. That's the suggestion.
I never ordered it to happen, no.
But that's why you wanted the document.
I don't think I've ever seen a document from Milley. Milley, frankly, was incompetent. The last one I'd want to attack with as my leader would be Milley. That I can tell you.
All right, last thing on this.
All right, so I still like our alternative answer on this question better. I think it's a better explanation for what happened in that alleged phone call. First of all, it's an indictment. We want to know who recorded that call, who was in the room. We want to know a lot more details about that call, when that call was recorded. I got a lot of questions about the authenticity of it and so on. But the point is, we're talking about what is allegedly a classified document. Now, I want to distinguish between a document that is marked classified and a document that is actually classified. Right? A document could have been marked classified but be declassified and still have the classified markings on it, especially if it was declassified right before you moved, right when you were exiting the White House. This previously classified document that is marked classified is still marked classified, but it's now declassified. Okay, the status of the document has changed, even though it still looks classified. So what Trump is saying is that it's marked, he's saying it's marked classified. It's not actually classified. And I could have declassified it through the formal proceedings where it gets published on the White House, right? On the website, in a formal press release, you say, I'm officially declassifying this batch of records like Trump has already done. That's the better explanation. He's saying, I have this document, which is now declassified, but you can see it's a pretty serious document because it's marked classified. What I should have done is declassified it formally, but it's the same word being used essentially three different ways. And that, I think, is going to be the better defense here. The status of the document was declassified. He was, being cutesy with it. I'll flash you the document. But that in and of itself wasn't possession of a classified document. It wasn't retention of national defense information. It wasn't obstruction because he retained it after they asked for it back. It wasn't any of those things. It was his document. And the Presidential Records Act doesn't govern it because that's Congress telling him what he can do with his own materials, and it's not a constitutional amendment. So here is Trump now comparing and contrasting the double standards that we see being exacerbated every day in this country under the Biden administration and their DOJ, saying that Trump gets abused, prosecuted for years for fake hoaxes, and the Biden people walk away with nothing.
That legal battle aside, I just want to ask you a couple of specifics. Why did you have this very sensitive national security defense documents?
Because they're
like the war
his.
plans for a strike on Iran.
So like every other president, I take things out. And in my case, I took it out pretty much in a hurry, but people packed it up and we left. And I had clothing in there. I had all sorts of personal items in there, much stuff. And by the way, when Bill Barr, who's, a coward, Bill Barr was a coward. Bill Barr didn't do what he was supposed to do. I fired him, and he has great hatred, and that's okay, because some people do. And some people love me very much. He didn't resign. I asked him, give me a letter immediately, because he didn't have the courage to go after so many different things, and you and I have discussed it before. But he was a coward. And he obviously doesn't like me too much, and there are a lot of people that don't, and there are a lot of people that feel just the opposite.
But on specific on the
let me
documents.
just explain.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of things in there. I will go through those boxes. I have to go through those boxes. I take out personal things. As far as the levels and all, everything was declassified because I had the right to declassify. You want to talk about a mess, take a look at Biden, where he's got 1,850 boxes. He has boxes stored in Chinatown in D.C. He has boxes stored at Penn Center, and he has boxes under his Corvette and around his Corvette sitting in a garage for years where it was very seriously classified. I have every right to have those boxes. This is purely a Presidential Records Act. This is not a criminal thing. In fact, the New York Times of all had a story just the other day that the only way NARA could ever get this stuff, this back, would be please, could we have it back?
And they
please,
asked for that.
Because they have no,
They did ask for it.
No, and
they said,
I gave
can you
them
give the
some,
documents back?
and we were talking.
And then they said they went to DOJ to subpoena you to get them
Which
back.
they've never done before.
Right.
And in
but
all
why not
fairness-
just hand them over then?
Because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't want to hand that over to NARA yet. And I was very busy, as you've sort of seen.
Yeah, but
I've been
according to
very,
the
very
indictment,
busy.
So people are saying that might be obstruction, right? He knows he's got the subpoena. I want to go through the boxes. The subpoena doesn't give him justification to continue to go through the boxes. The subpoena says that you have to give us those boxes and that he was not complying with the subpoena, right? So there is your obstruction. And I guess the thesis would be that he should have argued and challenged the subpoena at that time and said, no, I do actually have full authority to retain these documents rather than moving the boxes around and complying with them. Now, he's saying in response to that there are his boxes. He does not have to give them back at all. So it's further up the argument. It cuts off the entire, everything that hangs below it is covered. It's under the umbrella of they are his documents.
you then tell this aide to move to other locations after telling your lawyers to say you'd fully complied with the subpoena when you hadn't.
But before I send boxes over, I have to take all of my things out. These boxes were interspersed with all sorts of things, golf shirts, clothing, pants, shoes. There were many things. I would say much more. Not that I know of, but everything was declassified. And Biden didn't have the right to do that because he wasn't president. Nor did Mike Pence, by the way, have the right to do that because he wasn't president.
Right, I'm not going to belabor this.
No, but when you look at this, other presidents, when they leave, they take the papers. They have thousands and thousands. Obama had it. Nixon had it. Carter had it. The Bushes
is that
had
these
it.
are super sensitive national security documents.
I'm sure you'll see real super sensitive that Biden has, because Biden has far more than anybody's ever kept.
And he turned them over when asked.
No, he didn't. He still hasn't given the 1,850 boxes that's stored at the University of Delaware. In fact, they're fighting them in court, and they're fighting them. And
But he
the
opened
boxes,
up for them to look at.
excuse me, the boxes from
Well, so did Trump.
Chinatown, he didn't turn them over. He sent them up to his lawyer in Boston to look at before they handed them over.
And there are special counsel that's looking at that, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah, we will see, Brett. We will see what comes out of that. Let's see. Nothing, I'm going to guess, because it is one set of standards for one person and an entirely different set of standards for another. And, you know, Trump lives in the shadow of Hillary Clinton. That was a huge part of his campaign in 2016. It was her classified documents, her emails. The FBI didn't prosecute her at all. They contorted themselves and came out and they transmogrified the entire statute to change it from grossly negligent to extremely careless. And they decided not to prosecute her. So Trump was acting according to the Hillary Clinton standard. Unfortunately, we live in a world of double standards, and he doesn't get the benefit that the favored defendant class gets. All right, my friends. And now let's turn our attention in our final segment into what is going on here with Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate indicted in Romania, and there's been a lot of strange information flying around about this case, so I wanted to take us directly to a Romanian press release. I've got this pulled up. We will go through it. You can see it is translated here. We're going to flip it from Romanian into English. This is what it looks like in Romanian, and we'll come back to that and see what the details say. But let's take a look at what the news here tells us actually happened. This comes over from the Washington Post. They tell us that Andrew Tate and his brother were indicted on charges of the R and human trafficking as well. You see, this is a prior photo from earlier this year when they were in court in Bucharest, Romania. Both Andrew Tate and his brother. Romanian prosecutors announced via their press release, we're going to read through the actual release, telling us that internet personality Andrew Tate and his brother indicted. Charges on human trafficking, the R, and forming an organized crime group. The indictment marks the end of a criminal investigation into Tate. Prosecutors said that there were a number of people that were exploited, but the legal team for the Tate brothers is already responding. So they described the move as being, quote, undoubtedly predictable. And they vowed to, quote, demonstrate their innocence and vindicate their reputation, the team said in a statement. Saying, quote, the indictment now allows us to present a comprehensive body of evidence, diligently collected and prepared over time, which will undoubtedly substantiate the brothers' claims of innocence. Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, two Romanian female associates, were previously arrested in December, held in preventive detention. They were moved to house arrest in March. Prosecutors said the four formed a crime group in human trafficking in, here we go, Romania, Britain, and the United States. So here is where we get curious in this case. Is this going to be the same type of saga as a Julian Assange saga, where we go from one country to the UK to the United States over a long period of time? That has been something where Julian Assange has been on warrant status for years. Remember, he was in Ecuador in their embassy for a long time before being moved over to the UK, where he's been exhausting his appeals. Now he's going very likely to be coming back to the United States, where the warrant will be quashed. So prosecutors say the four formed a crime group for human trafficking. Is the United States behind this? The injured persons were recruited by foreign nationals, they say. One of the suspects is charged with the R in relation to two incidents in March 2022. Now, these court documents that were previously seen by the Washington Post said that Tate was being investigated for two of these incidents involving a Moldovan woman he is alleged to have trafficked from London. Lawyers for Tate have argued in closed court sessions that all of this intercourse was consensual, and documents have text messages saying that they were lured into Romania. Now, apparently, the prosecutors in Romania have got their hands on tons of assets. A hearing during which the details of the indictment will be communicated will be held on Wednesday, according to their lawyers. Tates are planning to attend in person. During the same hearing, the judge is expected to discuss whether further detention is necessary. The indictment, the document itself, has not been made public yet. Trying to get our hands on it. And I was trying to see if we could actually get the document and translate it into English so we could see how their courts work, and we're going to continue to see if we can get our hands on the document. But this comes over from DICOT, D-I-I-C-O-T, which is a Romanian entity that focuses on international trafficking. And you can see this is the press release directly from the Romanian government. We'll go through it. First, I want to make sure it's properly translated into English, since I don't speak Romanian. And here's what they tell us. Following press releases previously issued in these cases in 2022 and January 2023, the Information and Public Relations Bureau within the Directorate for Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism, that's DIOCT, D-I-O-C-T, is empowered to bring to the attention of the public the following. They tell us that there was an indictment dated June 15th, 2023. Prosecutors for the Directorate of DIOCT Central Structure ordered the prosecution of 4 defendants. They don't give us names here, but we know who they are. 2 persons with dual citizenship, British and American, presumably the Tate brothers, and 2 Romanian citizens for committing crimes of setting up an organized criminal group, human trafficking in continuous form. Each defendant is currently detained. 4 material acts, 3 material acts, 6 material acts, 5 material acts in relation to the number of injured persons. And remember, this is all translated, so I don't know if this is good translation or bad. It's auto-translate. They call it the R in continuous form, 2 counts of that, illegal access to a computer, probably another count, alteration of the integrity of a computer, maybe another count, instigation to hit other violence or hitting with other violence. In the case, the government says, from Romania, it was noted that at the beginning of 2021, the 4 defendants constituted a criminal group organized to commit on the territory of Romania, but also other states, such as the United States of America and the United Kingdom. The crime of human trafficking, okay? So it's coming back to the United States. The aggrieved persons were recruited by foreign citizens, the victims alleged, by misleading them, saying the Tate brothers misled them about the intention to establish a marriage and cohabitation relationship and the existence of real feelings of love, the lover boy method. They were subsequently transported and sheltered in buildings in Ilfov County, where by exercising acts of physical violence and mental coercion, through intimidation, through constant surveillance, through control and invoking alleged debts, they were exploited by members of the group by forcing them into doing videos and manifestations in order to produce and disseminate through social media platforms materials of such character. The 7 injured persons, all right, so that's a lot. That's like a lot of victims who presumably are going to be coming forward with testimony on this. The 7 injured persons identified during the investigation were subjected to forced labor in order to obtain financial benefits, consisting of the amounts of money collected as a result of accessing the materials by the users of the platform. Of the 7 injured persons who were exploited by the organized group, 3 were civil parties to the criminal proceedings. 3 were civil parties to the criminal proceedings. I don't know if that means that, I don't know what that translation means, but maybe there were civil lawsuits or something. Now, regarding the crime of the R, it was noted that in March 2022, an aggrieved person, one of the victims, was coerced by one of the defendants by using physical violence and mental pressure to repeatedly have intercourse, okay, over 2 different acts. We'll see. Regarding the crimes of illegal access to the computer system, that was in March 2022. So this is recent, right? So I mean, these are like recent victims. It was noted that in March 2022, an aggrieved person was coerced by exerting violence and mental pressure to have intercourse. And, you know, there were some allegations that maybe these were old charges, but that is not old. So they should have a person, right? There should be a victim here. Regarding the crimes of illegal access to the computer and alteration of the integrity of the computer data, they say October 2021, one of the defendants accessed without rights the computer systems belonging to one of these victims, posted on the social media account belonging to her the materials he obtained in this way, which depicted her in compromising situations. Regarding the crimes of instigation to hit or other violence, it was noted that October 2021, in order to, quote, punish one of these injured persons who refused to continue to make these materials and requested to leave, at the instigation of one of the defendants, another defendant exerted acts of violence and injured the person. So what I'm presuming they're saying happened is, the Tates had these other two enforcers, and so the Tates would then make an order to the enforcer to go in and do the thing. Now, the indictment requested the confiscation of several movable and immovable assets, seized and seized. So look at all this. Look at all this money that they're going to just gobble up. Woo! 15 plots of lands and buildings located in various counties, 15 luxury cars, 14 luxury watches, 2 bars and a medal, shares held in 4 companies, amounts of 86,000 lei, 52,000 euros, 17 grand in USD, 10,000 pounds of sterling, 21 Bitcoin, baby. Not 21 million, as somebody reported on the media, as we're going to hear. Existing in cryptocurrency wallets, about 300 grand. Wait a minute. 384 million in this currency. So I don't know what that is. I don't know what currency that is. As well as ordering the defendants to pay legal expenses advanced by the state in the amount of the Romanian currency, $300,000. Whew. So you love when the government just comes in and, over there, I'm guessing they don't have the presumption of innocence, as we fortunately pretend we have here. And they just gobbled up. Look at all of that asset. Man, the government, they can come in and really just take anything they want. Also, the notification document ordered the dissolution of the case regarding money laundering, favoring the perpetrator, influencing statements, trafficking in minors, trafficking in persons. They say this is being brought under the provisions of this law. It's proposed to maintain house arrest ordered against the 4 defendants. This will be proceeding forward in the Bucharest Tribunal. Oh, they do have the presumption of innocence. Look. So please note that this stage in the criminal process represents, according to the Code of Criminal Procedure, the completion of the criminal investigation, so they're done, and the sending of the indictment to the court for a trial. A situation that cannot in any way defeat the principle of the presumption of innocence. So shout out to the presumption of innocence, even in Romania. Amazing. So what we see here is a pretty serious set of charges. And they've got the UK looking at them, the Tate brothers. They've got, I'm imagining, the United States looking at them. And the questions are always about, why and timing, and why were these guys apparently allowed to get away with this cam stuff for so long, and suddenly they show up on everybody's radars. One lawyer on Twitter had an interesting comment. His name is Joseph D. McBride. He's on Twitter at McBride Law NYC. He said, very curious, the U.S. Department of Justice and the Romanian government coordinated the breaking news of Hunter Biden's guilty plea and Andrew Tate's indictment to suppress the Hunter Biden story. Andrew Tate's an American citizen. We will fully utilize the Constitution to protect Cobra Tate, says Joseph D. McBride. And, the question is he being properly prosecuted, or is he being targeted and singled out because of some of the things he talks about and some of the following that he has built that challenges the status quo? Tristan Tate reported this on Twitter. Says, the criminal indictment states that in 2021 they formed a gang with the purpose of kidnapping people. He says the cam studio closed 4 years prior to this. And the alleged 7 victims, many of which are totally on our side, he says. How many of them do you think worked for my webcam studio? That's from Tristan Tate, the brother. So we always have questions about this. And U.S. prosecutors extend their tentacles into various other countries and various other parts of the world. And something happened in this situation because, man, it felt like a light switch went off. And the Tristan Tate, Adrew Tate family came under the scrutiny of the international cabal. And you know what was so interesting about this is you could basically read through this and you could go through the Hunter Biden laptop and really parse out, tease out a very similar set of allegations. All right, how many different pictures and videos are on the Hunter Biden laptop that show him doing things that are physically violent, okay, or are mentally coercive through intimidation, exploiting people? Was there any exploitation happening in the Hunter Biden laptop right here? Was there any manifestations of videos that were disseminated across Hunter's platforms? Yeah, I think so, right? And so this is obviously a different country, and it's a different individual, and it's a different system of justice. But we see some people, no matter where you turn in this country, in this world, are part of a favored class. You can be a pal of Jeffrey Epstein, do whatever you want that's exploitive and abusive, and not even be brought to light at all. But if you're Adrew Tate and there's allegations, they say, they deny, they deserve the presumption of innocence. They say that these so-called victims are on their side. And the media loves to see somebody that a lot of people follow fall. Here are some of the mistakes they're making in their reporting.
By the Romanian authorities. Very interestingly also here, they detail this. The money that they say they wanted to seize included €52,500, $17,000, £10,000, but also over 21 million Bitcoin. For those of you who have followed the value of Bitcoin, that works out as nearly $400 million.
21 million Bitcoin. For all you Bitcoiners out there, that's amazing. Did you know that Adrew Tate owns all of it, literally all of it?
That they say they want to seize from the Tate brothers. Now, why this?
So obviously those numbers are bad. It doesn't add up. 21 million Bitcoin times $28,000 would be $588 billion. And that obviously is not what Adrew Tate has. So, my friends, this is a curious one. I think it's probably just the beginning of a long battle for the Tate brothers as they are prosecuted there in Romania, maybe going back to the UK, maybe coming back here to the United States. Of course, we'll keep our eye on this one. Thank you, my friends, for continuing to subscribe and like this video wherever it is you're watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. That is it for us on the day. We got some updates on Adrew Tate. We'll see if there's any new indictments, documents. I'd still like to see what it looks like coming out of Romania. We got updates on the Trump trial, fast track to August 2024. Trump had a little bit of a cross-examination conversation with Brett on that news network. Biden is having to eat his words on Hunter did nothing wrong, smartest man he knows, now that Hunter took a plea deal. And we know what a corrupt deal that is indeed. A couple minor misdemeanors with a felony charge that's going to just evaporate into thin air as soon as he completes diversion. And so we are done on the day, my friends. That is it from us here. Now it's time to see what you have to say about that, courtesy of our friends on YouTube, on Rumble. We appreciate everybody who supports the show with your amazing super chats. And where are we starting today? Tanya Karras is in the house. What's up, Tanya? Tanya's over on Locals. And on Locals, we have Taco Tuesdays. But Taco Tuesdays, it's a very diverse community there. So sometimes people don't want a taco. They want chicken, bacon, pineapple, cherry pizza salad, waffle cones, ice cream sundaes, whatever you want. It's Taco Tuesday. Tanya Karras always wishes us the most happiest hellos on Taco Tuesdays. And we went early today on locals. She says, I didn't forget you were early. That's right. And I said, yeah, we were there. We were there, but Tanya wasn't there. And that's right, we were early. It's good to see you, Tanya. We missed you this morning. But thank you for the Taco Tuesday celebration. We appreciate you being here. Next up, hey, Curtis Bartle gifted 5 membos. Thank you to Curtis Bartle for those 5 memberships that have all come in. Very grateful to Curtis Bartle. I only see 4 of them here. Don't Mind Me is in the house. We also have Euro Wars, AG Biochemist. And then we've got Angry Viking Veteran in the house. All right, thank you for that, Curtis Bartle. And, you know, my friends, our member-only morning streams are getting very full. So you can join us on YouTube, join us on Locals. We go live in the mornings where we talk about the dockets, we talk about the headlines, we take a look at what's happening on C-SPAN and everything else that's going on. And so if you'd like to get a little bit more, join us as a member. Michael Allen Hughes is here. Thank you, Michael. Says, what a nasty mess we have gotten into as a country. You're telling me. It is nasty. It's not good. You know, I really think it's not good. I think if you go back, you can pick any model you want. You can pick any thesis for what's happening right now. The fourth turning. We're in the fourth turning. You could talk about Ray Dalio's 6 stages. What stage are we in? Probably 5.7, 5.8 out of 6, I'd say. Getting pretty close to 6. We'll see. It's a mess. Thank you, Michael. Daniel Henry says, oh, look, that cute lawyer from Arizona is streaming again. Who the heck is he talking about? I wonder who he's talking about. I don't know who that is. Not just tuning in for the eye candy, though. Having trouble with my conservative friends bailing on Trump. Serve some MAGA realness, please, hun. From Daniel Henry in the house with a very nice super chat. Says, serve some MAGA realness, please. You're not talking about me, Daniel, are you? Well, that's a very nice compliment, Daniel. I appreciate it. Having trouble with conservative friends bailing on Trump. Well, what's their justification for doing that? What's the problem? Why are they bailing? Because of these indictments? Well, there's going to be 2 more indictments, I think. I wonder what their justification is. Thank you, Daniel, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Mustafa's here, says, very interested to see the classified documents in question. So are we. I can't put it past the Dems to not have slipped in a classified doc or 2 during the raid. And this was the first super chat from Mustafa X in the house. Yeah, very interested to see. Now, I don't think that we're going to see actually the classified documents, obviously, because they were allegedly classified, according to them. Not that we believe that, but they're going to be in possession of them, and I think the judge is going to accept their status as, you know, being, I would say, presumptively classified if the DOJ says they are. And it's going to be, you know, it's going to be this burden. Does Trump, who has the burden to show the status of the documents? The DOJ is going to say that they're classified. Trump's going to say, no, they're not. And so there's going to be case law on what is the presumptive status of a classified document. Probably, if it's marked classified, then it will be considered to be classified, is what I guess the status would be. We've got C. Wolf is here. Says, Rob, what difference does any of this make? Isn't Joe just going to pardon Hunter after all this anyway? Well, I don't think that Joe is going to pardon Hunter after this guilty plea because there's no real reason to. I mean, there's no real detriment to this. Okay, it's some tax filings. I don't think that anybody will really care too much about it. I think that if Joe pardoned Hunter for taking a guilty plea here, it would draw more attention to the fact that he took a guilty plea. I think what they would prefer to do is sandwich this in between the Trump indictments. So the Trump indictment in D.C. might be coming soon, soon. Sandwich it in between the two, hope most of America forgets, and then, I don't know, probably get the CIA to write another letter about it, you know, during the next election. Good to see you, Seawolf. Tony Hay says, have you noticed the similarities between Bill Barr and James Comedy, the way they talk to convince the American people what they say is true? From our friend Tony Hay Munkets, who's been a member for 2 months, from Tony Hay. Yeah, I don't know who James Comedy is, but Bill Barr, Bill Barr, I think, is a persuasive guy. He's got a good cadence to him. He's a good communicator. He's kind of got this folksy appeal to him. I like Bill Barr. I think, as critical as we are here of Bill Barr, I think that Bill Barr, we could probably go out for a steak and he could probably throw it right back, and we'd throw it right back at him, and then we'd probably have a nice steak. That's it. Whereas other people, I think, are at it, at a different, more visceral level. I just don't think that Barr is quite like that. Now, I think he's wrong. It's not to say he's not wrong. I think he's a little delusional that he thinks that the Justice Department is okay sometimes and bad other times. But anyways, it's good comment. Thank you, Tony Hay. This one, hey, from Killicam, came in. Thank you, Killicam. Says, welcome to supporter. He became a member. Woo, Killicam. And don't forget to grab the Telegram link when you join so you can join us on our Watching the Watchers member-only streams. Nate's Memes is here. Says, happy LGBTQ Pride Month. Hashtag, let's get Brandon to quit. That's from Nate's Memes in the house. Let's get Biden to quit. I don't think he's quitting. Jenny B says, I want names of all who paid $500,000 for Hunter's art. Jenny B, a member for 14 months. Oh my goodness. Jenny, thank you so much for being a member for 14 months. That is just an awesome thing. That's a long time. We've been through some serious stuff here, haven't we? I want names of all the people who paid. Well, that's the thing about art, I would love for the House Republicans to crack that shell and see what's inside there. That would be a lot of fun. Dolphin Fan is the man who invited SCVM, Eric V, Andrew Richardson, Matt Olson, and Drea D in the house. And Dolphin Fan is the man. Here is the Dolphin Fan gif. Thank you, Dolphin. And Dolphin Fan was in our morning chat this morning, and there were a lot of Dolphin fans in the morning chat. They said, hey, Dolphin, thanks for the invite for these morning chats. We've got Digga Warp is here. Digga Warp is here. Says Mr. G has the scoop, and who's been a member for 1 month. Thank you, Digga Warp. Did we have the scoop here today? I appreciate you being here, and thank you for being a member. Nate's Memes says, why do Democrats support BLM? Biden loving on people. I don't know. I don't know. Or honestly, the other BLM organization, even like the Black Lives Matter organization. Aren't they going bankrupt now because they embezzled and inherited, colluded like $60 million into somebody's mansions? Yeah, Patrisse Cullors, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, so it's a lot of money that went into a cause that went into somebody's mansions, I guess. Tara says, he said he never had a document. It was an article that Milley leaked NDI to the journalist, and Trump said he should have declassified it to prove the lie. Leaked NDI. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that Trump was saying that, right? We don't actually know what that was. Was it a newspaper article? They're saying it was a classified document. They say Trump held it up, but I don't know that they have the document that they're alleging he was holding. I don't think they have that actual document. Thank you for sending that in, Tara. This one came over from Rocky Water. Says, Brett Baier completely missing the entire point all again. But what if your documents were super duper secret documents? Right after Trump explains his absolute right to them as a president. And thanks again, Rob, for doing what you do. Well, thank you very much for that, Rocky. Rocky Water in the house. and that's my take. I think that is Trump's best defense, is hitting it at the top. It's an umbrella defense, separation of powers, executive powers, trump any statutory prohibitions that Congress tries to slap on them. And I think that if Trump tried to execute an executive order back their direction, that would be a big problem, right? Because of the separation of powers. Salty Sarge says, over on Rumble, says the FBI, CIA, NSA all have their own little fiefdoms and they rule like petulant little child kings. They live to get the goods on the elected, selected, and appointed. Yeah, I mean, when you go back historically and you look at what J. Edgar Hoover did with the FBI, right? You look at those eras and you go, wow, that was pretty rotten and corrupt. But now everything's good. Everything's great now, all of a sudden. Why? Because we live in 2023? Okay. But they're still governed by men and women succumb and become fallible to power, and they become corrupted and corroded over time. So just because it's this new era and we have accountability procedures and some handbook that says don't do that thing, doesn't mean they don't do it. Good to see you, Salty Sarge. Nate's Memes says our government is the boogeyman that they tell us about. Right. Yeah, I mean, the government, I think, is, for many people, the biggest problem in their lives. Literally. If you walked up to somebody and you said, hey, we're going to give you, I don't know, 30% of your income back, they'd go, what? It'd be life-changing. Yeah, I mean, we've been taking 30% of your income for you, and it's been going nowhere. Literally, the ROI has been zero on that money. So we're going to give it back to you. We think you can do better with yourself. Good luck. We're not going to go to war for you, though, anymore. So you're on your own. No more foreign wars. You're on your own. Do you think that person's life would be better or worse? I think better, personally. That's my take on it. We've got John McGarvey says, I'm submitting this just to make V move the bird. Just to make V move the bird. And here's what I think we have here. Oh, I can't open that up. Just to make V move the bird. I think V's clipping for us. Yeah, so he was going to try to make it animated. But it's not animated. Sorry, John. We tried. Salty Sarge says, it's starting to look like the Oprah show. Everybody gets an indictment. You get an indictment. You get an indictment. And you get an indictment. Sort of like the J6ers. Salty. Okay, Daniel Henry's back. Says, my conservative friends thinks Trump is now unelectable and that even a golden retriever would beat Biden in 2024. So why risk running Trump again? My argument has been no one else has motive to gut the deep state. Thoughts on that? Yeah, I think that's a good argument, actually. I think there's a lot of truth to that. So let's break it down in a couple parts. And first of all, I don't agree with the premise that Trump is unelectable. I think you can make that argument because, for example, if you believe that the last election was legitimate, you could make the argument logically to say that Biden has already beaten Trump. And so if you put them up again, Biden can beat Trump again. And I think that might be the standard thought process. I'm not sure that's the same thing. I mean, we have seen now what Joe Biden has done. And I think that Joe Biden is not this unknown quantity that everybody colored up as the savior of America, as this return to normal, as this return to form. So I think that Biden is also in this equation. And I personally don't think that Biden is going to get better over this next 18 months. So if it's a Trump-Biden, what I would be more concerned about is Biden bowing out and a Trump versus a Newsom or something like that. I think that would actually make Trump's possibility of being electable worse. Now, I think if it's an electability argument, then the next question is you've got to default who is next. Okay, if not Trump, then who? So who are they going to now? DeSantis? That's going to be the next default? Okay. And to be fair, I like DeSantis. I think DeSantis is a perfectly qualified person. Whether it's Trump or DeSantis or Vivek, I would be thrilled, right, with any of them. But I have a strong leaning towards Trump for a lot of different reasons. One of which is because what they have done to him is so egregiously improper that it's basically a red line in my book. I'm very upset about what the DOJ, the FBI have done, and what they've been able to get away with. And so I pick up with I actually agree with a lot of your second argument, which is that nobody else is going to come in there with a vendetta, with literally a notion of revenge almost, to go out there and clean out the deep state. Now, my thought on this is also, questionable, because I've heard some clips of Trump where he actually got asked about this in Iowa. Somebody asked him point blank, what are you going to do with the FBI? And his question really teared off. I clipped it at some point. Really kind of, went off into this conversation about the FBI having a lot of great people and stuff. So I also have my reservations. I'm still somebody who thinks that Trump probably has the highest motive to go in there and do something consequential, because it's going to be a one term for him. There's really nothing else, to do on it. But I could also see Trump not going in there and gutting the FBI. I could see, I have some reservations about that. I don't know. But I do think that what they did in 2020 was absolutely wrong, was absolutely egregious, and there should be a penalty for that, quite frankly. So Trump, who has been the scapegoat, who has had this laser focus on him from some of the worst entities in this country, it's almost like it's correcting a universal wrong. I'd like to see him win again. All of the other candidates can have their days in the future. But I do agree there are some risks with Trump. I do think that there is some valid concerns on general election electability. We'll see. A lot more will be revealed, but those are some general thoughts, Daniel. Thank you for sending in the super chat. Good question. And I don't know that you're going to win those people back. I don't know. A lot more will be revealed. It's still very early, too. If Trump gets indicted 2 more times, what does this do to that trend? Does it do anything? I don't know. Not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. Yeah, I can relate. Says the harder they go after Trump, the more people want him to win. What a bunch of morons. Yeah, and you see that almost reflected in the polls. It was like 48-44. We played the clip yesterday where the news guy was like, it's not changing anything. It's like, okay, why don't you impeach him again? Why don't you indict him again? John Allen, over on Locals. Thank you, John. Says, hey, Rob, great show as always. By the way, I'm tipping you, so you will check your Telegram DM from me. Yeah, I'm pretty bad about that. Sorry about that, John. I will check it. Promise. And our Telegram is getting beefed up a little bit. We've got, how many members do we have over there now? These are members. 210, baby. Chatting away in our members-only Telegram group. And thank you, John, for the reminder. I will definitely check it. I appreciate you sending in another tip. Tara says, nope, no doc found. They looked and he never had it. Yeah, that was the document. So the document that they were apparently saying that Trump held up, they never found it. So maybe it's just his statement. Maybe it's just Trump's body talk, locker room talk. And it's Twitter time. So let's go see what's happening on Twitter. And shout out to our friend Vientikis, who did an amazing job here today, modding down the fort and clipping away for us. Let's see who is over on Twitter. Do we have anybody who's even watching over here? Oh yeah, it's me and one other person. Tremendous. What's up? Shout out to our single Twitter viewer. Shout out to our single Twitter viewer. It's good to see you here. We've got a couple comments. Deplorable Fred says, people don't like to hear this, but the constitutional republic is done. Sorry, folks. Danny McWilliams says, Robert, would you sue another lawyer if asked? Well, I don't know. As a general, no. Not generally. but I wouldn't sue anybody if just asked. I mean, there has to be like a reason for it, you know? And I'm not the type of lawyer that sues people. I'm the type of lawyer that defends people against government bullies. So no, generally no. I would not sue another lawyer if asked. I wouldn't really sue anybody if asked. If somebody wronged me, then I might hire a lawyer to settle a claim, but that's it. We had another couple from Danny. Says Barr spelled sideways is rhino. Yeah, that sounds right. Vienticus says nothing is going to happen to Trump. His actions, or lack thereof, on Assange has sealed his favor with the deep state. Ooh, that's an interesting take there, V. Very interesting take. Sided with the deep state for not doing anything with Assange. Vienticus says Tate is basically being robbed 6 ways to Sunday for saying F the government. Yeah, they just pilfered everything. Oh, man. And did you see they did that with that Russian ship, too? Like a former Google CEO bought this Russian ship. Former Google CEO Russian yacht. Let's see if we can get this one. And yeah, this is like just straight up theft by U.S. government. It's so gross. Here, look at this story. Did you guys see this? Ex-Google CEO Eric Schmidt paid $67 million for a super yacht that was abandoned, okay, by a sanctioned Russian oligarch. All right, so this is basically a billionaire. Eric Schmidt won an auction on Friday, spent $67 million bucks. This yacht just got abandoned, so-called. And so they just took it and they just resold it. And so Google pays $67 million, gets a super yacht at just a massive bargain. And it's just, you know, it's like theft by the government. So they just come in, they say, oh, no, you're Russia. No, you're Andrew Tate. Oh, no, you know, you're involved in bad things, and so you get penalized. All right, where the heck did the Twitter thread go? Here we go. Feline Fun says, has the motion to dismiss been filed yet? From Trump's team? No, I've not seen that yet. Phil says, Brett Baier was more combative in that interview than a CNN reporter. Trump cannot get a fair interview. He should just start doing interviews with people like Tim Pool, Joe Rogan, and Watching the Watchers. I agree with you, Phil. Trump should come on this show. He should. Jerk GPT in the house, which sounds like a fun account, Jerk GPT. Hey, this warm feeling safety. Is this warm feeling safety or almost a boiling? Hey, put down that lid, says Jerk GPT over on Twitter. And so that, my friends, is it for us. And thank you for all of your support all across the fruited plain of the internet. Now, we are not done yet. We're going to go over to our members only after party to debrief this day's activities. And so if you are a member, come on and join us at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you're a member on YouTube, don't forget to grab the Telegram link so you can join us as well, which is where the members only stream will be continuing. Salty Sarge sent this one in over on Rumble. Thank you, Salty. Says Trump will win a set of steak knives for the 4th indictment. That's a movie reference. Always be closing. First place wins a new car. Second place, steak knives. What's that movie? Glengarry Glen Ross, something like that? That's the one. Salty Sarge in the house. Set of steak knives. Nate's meme says, lies told loud and long enough eventually become the truth. Indeed, indeed, Nate's memes. Yeah, and so the Hunter Biden stuff will get squished right in the sandwich of the Trump indictments, and the media will play this stupid game over and over and over, and one side will continue to be prosecuted while the other side isn't. So we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And before we do, my friends, don't forget to get your Field of Greens, courtesy of our friends at fieldofgreens.com, where you can save 15% off your real organic superfood. by using code Robert at checkout. And so come over to fieldofgreens.com, save a bunch. Also, if you would like to use this Mindmap software, you can get your free account at spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap and mindmap to your heart's content. Big thanks to the mods who mod down the fort for us. Thank you to Vientica's Prime in the house, clipping away. K-Bean in the house. We got Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu's in the house, Beyond Geostars, Zach Nichols, our friend, John Allen, Janek 909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me, modding down the fort for us, keeping things nice and orderly. And thank you to our friends, Geegum Geegum, Nathan NA10, and Sleepy Dog Lee over on Twitter. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. And we are going to leave it there. Members on YouTube, don't forget to grab the Telegram link in the community tab section and join us for our after party. That's where we're going next. But if we don't see you over there, then I do hope to see you right back here tomorrow, because tomorrow we've got the John Durham testimony that we're going to unpack on the show. So if you're not already subscribed, please do that. If you haven't already liked this video, please do that. And if you want to invite somebody who may not know about this channel or know about this stuff, back here tomorrow, should be a good one. John Durham testimony. We're going to break down. He should be appearing in front of Congress tomorrow. So should be a good one. And so that, my friends, is it for us on the day. I want to thank you for joining us. I hope you have yourselves a very beautiful, very restful sleep so you can wake up tomorrow refreshed and energized and right back here with us, so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have yourselves a very beautiful night, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.